There we go. Welcome, folks, to our latest installment of the Coaches Connect call. I'm Coach Jeremy, and I am joined by a lovely group of coaches today. And we have a little bit of an agenda lined up, hopefully not too jam-packed, and we can let some of these conversations breathe a little bit. But I'm going to get right into it with our first point of conversation. And this one is coming a little bit from my coaching experience for the last few days. I'm going to be taking some time off. Likely coaches in America uh, who just celebrated Thanksgiving, you may have taken some time off, some time away from your screens and from clients to spend a little bit more time with family, or maybe you were traveling and doing some things to refill your own tank. If that was the case for you, curious to know, what are some of the SOPs, the standard operating practices, the things that you do when you are looking to take some time off and you want to ensure that your clients feel well taken care of in that time? So I'll open it up to the floor. Steve, I'm going to kick it to you first. It looks like you have some thoughts on your mind here. Uh, Maybe you want to let folks know first where you are in your coaching journey, and then you can give us some idea of how that influences some of the conversations you have before you take some time away.
Yeah. So I've been coaching going on 17 years now, online for three and a half. Um, and so I've kind of always, even from in person to online, I kind of do the time off similarly, where I'll usually let folks know, like, a month before, like, hey, I'm going to be out this week. And, I usually kind of let them know I won't be available. And then I'll try to have as many coaching meetings as I can the week before. That way, so I'm meeting my clients every 2 weeks. That way, I'll try to like batch as many as I can the week before I'm away. That way, I'm not even scheduled to have a coaching meetings that week. And then I usually let them know, like, hey, if I won't be online, and if I do communicate, if you do need to reach out to me, it'll be 48 hours or 72 hours for me to may possibly get back to you rather than the 24 hours that I kind of live by now. And I put, I'll send a group message, not a group message, a message to everyone in my coaching platform at the same time as a reminder the week before, like the Friday before I'm going to be out. And it usually works pretty well. People usually don't message me, but every once in a while somebody will, like, oh, I'm so sorry, I forgot to ask you this thing that's happening this week, what should I do? And that's usually the only thing I get. But since I'm not out like every week, it's that 1 or 2 weeks where I'm definitely kind of offline. People usually abide pretty well.
Awesome, thank you. Uh, Curious to know those stray messages that kind of make it through the net there. So you have like some pretty strong systems. So if I were to summarize, it sounds like you give them a heads up about 4 weeks in advance.
Hmm.
Prior to that, you try and rearrange some of those coaching calls that would have been missed in that time off, so that they happen just prior to, so
Yeah.
that the delay there is as kind of minimal as possible.
Hmm.
And then let them know that also communication may be delayed. So you standard while you're working is, it sounds like, kind of like 12 to 24 hours potentially,
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
sooner.
It's I
Cool.
usually set the parameter 12 to 24 hours, but it's usually much sooner than that.
Exactly. Cool.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, but when on vacation, it can be anywhere between 48, 72 hours. So it's a little bit longer with that built in mind. What
Mhm.
happens when one of those stray messages lands in your inbox uh, when you're on the beach?
Yeah. So I try my best not to be on the email while I'm on the beach, if you will. But what I'll do is I'll look at it and I'll see like what kind of urgency does this question have? And then what I'll usually try to do is if I am responding to messages, it's early morning, like before like I start the day. I'll like just gather. I'm like, oh, okay, like nobody really immediately needs me. Sometimes it's just an update that someone sends me. But when they do, I'll respond, right? By and large, I've got like 40 clients. So like if two or three come by, I think that's a win. And they don't come every day, right? And so I'm like, all
Right.
right, early morning when I'm having my quiet time, and my coffee in the morning, I'm like, oh, let me just check real quick. And when they do, it's usually like a workout question. Oh, I hurt my shoulder. What should I do? and it's a
Mhm.
quick response. It's never like, let's hop on a red light call right now. Uh,
Right.
so that's pretty much how they go.
Cool. Thank you for sharing your process.
Hmm.
Coaches here, what does your process look like in the similar situation of planned time off, let's say? Is there anything that you have kind of done as your SOPs? Is there anything that you have found that makes your life easier in these situations? I know that taking time away from responding is a conversation that we've explored quite a bit in these conversations in the coaches community at large. Do you find it challenging to see a message come in and then not take a peek at it and then not maybe share a little response? Curious to know how you guys are rolling with that.
I guess I'll jump in here to quell the awkward silence as we all stare at the screen.
Appreciate you, Eric.
Yeah, this is my first time coming in here. Most of my clients are one-to-one in-person training, but I do use an app for clients to give them things to work on, to do check-ins and everything. They always have scheduled work on their own that they have already agreed to, that I'm going to do this, or this while you're gone. Any of those things we always work through ahead of time. So it's nothing that I've ever sent them that's totally new. They've seen it, they've done it before, they know how to do it. It's becomes really more of a reminder of, okay, go do this thing you've already done, just go do it again. And then you can mark that. Um, Having the relationship where you are seeing people face to face, I occasionally do get those notes. But it's usually another person on the beach with a hamburger and a drink going, see what I'm doing? Fine, whatever, love you anyway. So it usually ends up being more of a communication and excited sharing rather than a oh crap moment of, I don't know what to do today. So you don't really need to respond to those. Those are kind of no response necessaries. And you just go with it from there. Or send a picture back of you downing a gigantic hamburger and going, okay, yeah, so what? Um, it just makes a good communication back and forth.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing your experience as well, Eric. Uh, yeah, being able to be a little bit more selective with the messages, responding in a tone that's a little less like I'm on I'm on the clock right now. I'm wearing my coaching hat, just letting them know, hey, yes, I also have a life that I live as well. My life is not consisting of Tupperwares with brown rice and broccoli all the time. Sometimes I'm on the beach. Sometimes I'm engaging behaviors that are different as well. Letting them know that those things are just normal. That's super useful. One thing that you bring up here that I think is quite valuable, and Steve also shared this as well, that idea of kind of urgency regarding specific messages. So, like the hamburger message, like that they send you, you could certainly send like an emoji or some sort of kind of like tongue-in-cheek response, or you could probably just ignore it. It's not something that sounds like it requires an immediate response. Then there are some messages that are a little bit more dire on the spectrum, and they feel like they require my immediate response. Like whatever I'm doing, I need to put down. Need to put that down, and I need to address this. I need to log in, see what's going on, check all the data, yada yada. That is one where I think we do ourselves a great service when we speak to those situations much earlier. So Steve kind of gave us our initial timeline of I'm going to prompt this conversation about a month out of when I'm going to be taking some time off and I'm not going to be responding. I think there's probably a timeline that starts on day one of the coaching process and it lets them know, hey, this is how I respond to kind of all messages during workflow times, during times where I'm away. There's rarely going to be a message that you're going to send to me that requires immediate response times. And Steve also mentioned this is like kind of just prompting that 12 to 24-hour period. You'll likely get a response from me much sooner, but there's really nothing that you're going to send to me that is going to require a response in under an hour. If you are messaging me and there's something that is that urgent that requires a response from you, you should probably be heading to a hospital or calling the police because I cannot help you with these problems. Those are not the problems that we're addressing. Uh, if the question is, should I have brown rice or white rice at this restaurant? Again, there's a deeper conversation that we need to have here, and it doesn't need to happen right now. So letting folks know some of the work that we do here, it's incredibly valuable. It is potentially life-changing, but in each individual moment. I'll respond to you in an appropriate amount of time, but you don't need my permission for anything. And there's no problem that I'm going to be capable of solving immediately for you that is that important. I can help you log into the system. I can give you recommendations for a city. If you're visiting Toronto and you need a gym to work out, I can do all those things for you. But you don't need that immediately, and especially not when I'm off the clock. So prompting that level of conversation already to let them know 12 to 24 hours is standard operating time, a little bit longer on vacation. Nothing you send my way during this time or any of the time we're working together is going to require significantly shorter messaging than that. Any other things that pop up for coaches when they're eyeing time away? One that comes up for me, I'll say, is in regards to how does it impact billing? I know for my personal process, I work on a month-to-month basis, so it's roughly about a 4-week cycle for in between payments. If a client needs to miss some time, that is that week consumed. If I can't reschedule it within my scheduling availability, then we say, okay, cool, we'll check in via text for this week, and then we'll just jump back into our regular cycle. If I am going to miss some time, on the other hand, I'm going to give you credit for that time missed because you did all the things I can ask of you. It was on me that I wasn't there. That is how my business operates. So if it's week 2 and I'm going to be gone for the next 2 weeks, we're pausing your payments here. We'll resume when we come back. It's a little bit more of a pain in the butt to keep track of that system, but it's something that reflects my values as a coach, so that's the way I do it. I'm curious to know, how do other coaches account for their personal time away with clients?
I have a similar question as to what Brandy posed in the chat.
Regarding prices?
No, regarding personal emergencies. So I have a neck condition that's unstable, and so it's not really that uncommon for me to be in a position where I just cannot deal with conversation, or voices can just end up being too much for me, and it can sneak up on me. I'm doing better now, but it's definitely something that weighs on me as a coach and makes me wonder about my, how do you explain that? Or, I mean, I guess definitely it has to be upfront. Like Steve, you were saying, you really need to give people a heads up so you're not triggering their abandonment issues or whatever is, yeah, I have them. I get it. So I think that's really
so planned time away versus emergency time away. I think, again, as a business owner, you get to decide how you want to operate in both of those circumstances from a payment perspective. The message that I sent to clients initially is like, hey, if there's an emergency, we're both human beings. My expectation from you is that you'll update me at an appropriate time. So like, let's say you miss an appointment with no prior heads up. I'm going to be concerned, but I'll assume that there's a rational explanation for you. You're not just ghosting me. I'm not going to go immediately to view you in the worst light possible. I might send you a message, just be like, hey, you missed a session. When you have an opportunity, send me a message and we'll try and reschedule, or we'll see if we can work another solution here. If it's me, it's the same expectation, where if I miss a session for some reason, I will send you a message at the first appropriate opportunity I have. So let's say there's a family emergency or something like that. It may not be the first thing that I do is log on and text all my clients for the day that, hey, I'm going to be away. My brain may be somewhere else. If that is the case, I will do everything in my power to make it up to that client at a future date. So just how my vacation time also just bumps their package forward, it's the same system that I would use here.
Hey, it's Jeanette. Zoom call, but I had to use my phone because of the internet. I'll call you as soon as I'm done. Okay.
Sorry, that didn't come all the way through there. It was really garbled. And I see the name as Chaos Coordinator, which feels slightly appropriate right now. But if anything, if you're able to either find a more stable internet connection, or if you'd like to put it into the chat box, feel free to post there, and then I'm happy to share your comment with the rest of the crew. Anna, does that give you kind of, at least that's some insight into how I operate there? Are there other coaches who have a operating practice that is different for emergencies on their end or time off on their end? I know there are some folks who just say, hey, I'm going to be taking some time off. You'll likely take some time off during, especially with longer engagements of coaching. If you're working in like a year plus setting with a lot of folks, it's something where it's just like, oh yeah, we don't actually need to account for it because in the wash, you'll miss a couple, I'll miss a couple, and then they just cancel each other out. It's certainly an easier and more collegial way to operate a business. It's just something that may bite you in the butt depending on how many you plan on missing and how many they plan on missing. What do you got, Vicky?
Well, so similar to what Steve was saying is, he's on his vacation and he may pick particular times during the day. He'll just check for emergencies. As Jeremy knows, sometimes you're in different time zones. So very different time zones. So if you're in Europe, and I'm in Pacific Northwest, that's 9 hours different. So big difference. So it gives you kind of that luxury if your clients know you're 9 hours different to check when it's convenient for you. And so just make that clear. And I had posted in the thing about just similar to other people's comments too, about like giving them as much notice as possible. My clients sign up for their bi-weekly calls on Calendly. So I just mark it out as soon as I can. And even if it's a different type of trip, like we have a trip next week going to Louisville, Kentucky. My husband's doing a cyclocross nationals, but so it's not really a vacation for me. But I have 2 travel days. So I mark off those travel days and then I pick different time zone again when, and of course I have clients in different time zones too. So have to make that available for them normally anyway. But yeah, the type of the trip is important, whether it's sacred or not. Whether your time's, So I think that was about it. But
yeah, that's super useful. And I mean, as coaches, likely working as solo operators of our business, that you get to decide what you want that time to look like. There are some folks who will vigorously kind of defend that space and say, hey, I'm not picking up my phone. I'm not even bringing my laptop. I'm not bringing any devices while I'm off away, because that's how I recharge my coaching batteries and how I can provide the best service to my clients later on. And also not setting the expectation that they need to be attached to me digitally 24/7 in order to be successful. So there is certainly value there. It sounds like both Vicky and Steve and myself included set aside a little bit of time on those extended periods where they're going to be away, because it's helpful to just kind of like check in, make sure everything's kind of running smoothly in the background. I also kind of take a similar approach in that I would like to be able to respond to those messages, because eventually when I do return to my laptop, or I do return to responding to kind of regular work hours, I don't want a mountain of work on that first Monday, which always seems to appear regardless. But if I can chip away a little bit of it in my own fashion, in a way that feels good for me, then that helps my brain to manage some of the anxiety a little bit better. So cool to see how people do things a little bit differently. what compromises we're willing to make, what compromises we're not willing to make, and then also how do we prepare that messaging for clients so they don't find that disruption to be harmful to their overall progress, and they see it as something that is a normal part of engaging in nutrition coaching. Very useful. Thanks, gang. Any final thoughts on this discussion before we move on? Cool. We'll take a slight detour here. I want to answer, Jason, you came today with a question that you wanted to discuss. I know you put it in the chat box. I'm just going to take a second to scroll up and see if I can find it. So your question, it looks like, was when you're using ProCoach, how often do you check in with your clients? How long do they spend on the calls? Also, is there any way to schedule calls to the app? So I can answer the last one the most easily. There's no scheduling software built into ProCoach, but we often use companion software. Vicky mentioned Calendly. For PNs, in-house coaches, we use Acuity quite often. For my personal business, I've defaulted now to using Google Calendar. Actually has a built-in feature that I didn't know. I have no idea how long it's existed. It was just there one day, and it's a magical tool. Works very similar to any of the other scheduling software that I've used, except that it's already integrated into the calendar I reference the most. So if you're looking for a suggestion, that would be my suggestion. It's already free. It's accessible to a large number of people. You can set kind of like blocks from week to week where people can book in calls to you, and you just share that link. Quite useful. For the other two questions, how often do you check in with clients? So if there are folks who are using ProCoach here, and I don't think this is a specifically ProCoach related question, how often are you checking with your clients? And I assume this means, actually, Jason, you're here. I don't need to assume anything. I can just ask you. By check-in, do you mean sending them like a little, hey, what's up? Or do you mean sitting down and running like a more formalized process? What does that mean to you?
Yeah, going on the actual coaching call with them to run through their next habit and lessons and that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Gotcha. Cool. Coaches, how often are you popping in and running these more formalized sit downs?
I'm doing every 2 weeks. I use ProCoach as well. And so I meet every 2 weeks, and then at the end of that call, to kind of think about the scheduling portion, I do the scheduling at the end of the call.
See, sorry, I was thinking that as well. I've got Calendly, but I think my thought process was like send people the link, but having what you just said there, like just schedule on a call there and then, that's a good idea as well. So what were you going to say as well there? Sorry.
Yeah, so I use the kind of same like coaching like call framework where like I always end the call with, hey, let's book our next call together. Pull up their calendar. I'll pull up my calendar. I use Calendly right now just because I allow them to schedule their kickoff calls automatically. But outside of that, I schedule the calls for them. And then every once in a while, like I have a client or two in like Israel or like some other place, and they're just not on their computer. I'll make a one-time link and be like, hey, it's our week to meet next week. Here's your thing. And just like Jeremy mentioned, like in Google, it's a specific block of time that they can book through. And they book that way. Because just some of them are like, hey man, my schedule changes quite frequently, or I have someone who works in public transit and they have like a bit of a chaotic schedule. So I let some clients book themselves, but mostly I do it myself.
Awesome. Thank you.
Cool. Other coaches, do you have a different mode of operating? Similar? What does your experience look like?
Kind of the same, and I also just put it in the chat here. At the end of each one of my sessions, I confirm the next 2 sessions, because that also helps identify future events earlier than we might normally catch if you only go one in advance.
Yeah, that's nice.
And yeah, just to round it out, also, I'm doing weekly currently. For my check-in calls, first call, as Steve called it, the kickoff call, that is the one where I create a link and have some opportunities just randomly peppered through my calendar for times where I typically I'm not already have meetings scheduled. And then I let clients just book in there. And from there, we tend to try and fit standing appointments week to week. Just like Eric and like Steve, I also confirm the next single session at the end of that call. So we finish our call today. Hey, we're meeting again next week, 2 p.m. Any problem there? All good? Cool. Then I'll see you next week. And that is the format of how we finish each call. Yeah, if we need to reschedule, it'll typically happen 1 to 2 weeks prior to that call. And then that is part of that conversation at the end of the call is just a reminder, oh yeah, last week you mentioned that we need to reschedule. Does this time still work for you? Excellent. And then we move from there.
Awesome.
Yeah, just do the chat box to see if anyone else, Brandy, shares that they do 2-week time skip in between check-in calls, just because that's what they found to be best. And yeah, you can also see Katie, my apologies, also shared their experience as well. In terms of time length for folks, mine tend to be, I block off 30 minutes with a 10-minute buffer at the end, just in case we go long. Depending on the person in the relationship, they're normally done between that 20 and 30-minute mark.
Yeah. Amazing, man.
Is that similar for folks here? Or do you find that they're taking a little bit shorter, a little bit longer? Getting a lot of head nodding, so I'm going to assume that's typically what most coaches are utilizing as well, scheduling around similar time length there.
Awesome. Appreciate that, by the way.
One thing I will say, if you are a pro coach user, the first initial meetings may be a little bit longer. So what we term the kickoff call, where you are reviewing potentially their intake forms together, and you are assigning those first actions. Clients will likely also have other questions related to kind of just like navigating the system, what to expect, how to track things. All of that takes a little bit longer to explain on the front end. So you may want to schedule closer to 60 minutes for that first call so that they can ask all the questions. But subsequent calls typically aren't as lengthy than that first call.
Awesome. Amazing. Thank you.
You're welcome. Let's dip in for our next question into our community. So for this one, I have them queued up here somewhere. So this is a kind of semi-related question. It comes from Shelly Goodwin Duet, and they're asking, how do you justify your prices? So they mentioned, I have a client saying they could get the same thing without workout plan for cheaper. But 9 out of 10 times, those other places aren't tailored to them and catered to where they're at. And this conversation is currently ongoing in our community. It has over 80 comments and it's reached about 2,000 people. So it's one that's a little bit heavier hitting here. Curious to know, coaches, you've likely faced some objections about price at some point in your career, no matter if you're priced at $1 or if you're at $1,000 a month, someone at some point has probably raised an eyebrow. How do you navigate those conversations? Zubair, what do you got?
Hey, Jeremy. Hey, so happy Thanksgiving, by the way. So I think I'm a very frugal person, so I know people's objections going in, definitely for sure. It's like, hey, why should I spend on this? And I think it comes to kind of two things, to me, two or three things. One is identify their goals. Let's go back to their goals, right? Okay, what are you trying to get out of this? Can you achieve that by yourself? Why haven't you done it already, right? If you have, okay, the information is all out there, right? And it's all for free. I mean, it's all there, right? So and I would say empower someone to go and do it themselves too. It's like, look, if you think you can do it yourself, yes, the information is there. I can give you 30 minutes for free, and I'll point you in the right direction, and you go. And in the end, I want to see you succeed. Doesn't matter, how you do it, the exact path that you take, but you should succeed, right? And then kind of get into okay, why haven't you gotten there yet? Right? What is actually the value that I'm adding? Is that, look, everybody's in the gym. We're going to see it in New Year's, right? Everybody's in the gym on New Year's, but by February, March, it's empty again. Why? It's because people need accountability. They need guidance along the way, right? So it's kind of like, what's the unique value that I can offer that information alone cannot offer, right? And then I kind of focus on, okay, why haven't you done this yourself? And you offer like a monthly thing. It's like, Jeremy, a lot of times it's, okay, look, if it's you can try it for 1 month and see if it's not worth it for you. Okay, then it's not worth it. If you try it for 1 month and think you can do it yourself, do it yourself, right? We eventually you will have to do it yourself, right? So you'll have to learn that anyway. So you can go into the whole like sales objections stuff, right? That like if you search Alex Hermosi on YouTube, and you can find a whole free stuff on sales objections. But I find those to be kind of off-putting to myself, right? They might work on some people, but for me, as soon as I hear that, I'm not, oh, you're just reading the sales objection script, right? So and I don't want to hear that script, right? I know the answers to that script already, but rather I think it's building that deeper connection with that person and helping them solve their goals, solve their problems, hit their goals, no matter if they use you or they use someone else or they use something else, right? And it's like, hey, empower them, right? Show what value you offer that's unique, and then let them make their decision. And I say, hey, look, if you want to reach out again, talk to me, ask a question here and there, check with me if you think these things are like, sanity check for 5 minutes, no problem. I'm here for you. And kind of use that to build that trust with them, because in the end, this all becomes a business of trust, right? And so it's building the trust, I think, gets the customer. If there's some customers, look, my wife is an attorney and she does free 30-minute consultations, and otherwise it's $400 an hour. There's so many people who come for the free consultation and then just don't come back, right? Because it's just, yeah, they were never going to pay anybody for it. They'll go to 3 different lawyers and get free consultations and then not pay anybody. And you'll find people like that with coaching and with fitness as well too. And that's okay. You think about, if you were just able to help somebody, right? You did something good, don't worry, the universe will come back to you. Anyway, that's my thought. I'll stop there. Sorry, I ramble a lot.
No, I think there was a lot of valuable things there. And then also sharing that, yeah, there's other professionals who will also open the door and say, hey, here, this is how I can demonstrate value. And I think that's the key to a lot of this conversation is when that objection comes up, asking yourself, where have I already taken opportunities to demonstrate value to this person? And then maybe where is there a disconnect? Where are they not seeing how the solution that I provide and tailor for them is maybe not as valuable as something that they feel another option can potentially hit? And also, as you mentioned, the thing that springs to my mind the most in this conversation is if someone's like, well, I could achieve the same thing for much cheaper, I would immediately tell them, yes, go do that. Why would you pay me money? It would be silly for you to pay me more to achieve the same thing. If you truly believe that there are options that are much cheaper and will be similarly effective for you, I would encourage you to go do those things. By all means. You've taken no real time from me. If this conversation, the value to you was speaking some of these things out loud, helped you to realize that, oh yeah, I could do this another way, cool. I'm happy to have been at that point in your journey. If speaking to me and you found me so distasteful that you're like, you know what, I'm going to go get 6-pack abs and set my new squat PR and become a superhuman, and I was just the villain in your story there for a moment, amazing. I would love to be the villain in someone's story. They came back and was like 6 months later is now jacked and super lean and they got all the things that they wanted out of their life. That's great. That's part of my role as a coach, is to help people realize and how to understand their own thoughts and beliefs. So cool. I have no problem with that. When it comes to someone who's kind of more on the fence and they're like, I think there might be other options out there. Again, as Zubair said, this is a relationship of trust that we're building. So I would ask them, hey, what other options have you considered or have you already tried in relation to working on this problem? Let's kind of lay them out. This is an opportunity for me to demonstrate what does it look like to actively engage in coaching with someone before they've put pen to paper or before they've actually made that purchase. If this is useful for them and it helps to demonstrate, again, my specific value as a coach, then I find that to be a useful objection that can potentially strengthen our relationship. Yes, exactly. You can. There are many skill sets. Kate shared a good example in the chat box there. There are many skill sets. There are many products that people could conceivably create their own version of. And if you could make a version of a pain au chocolat that was as killer as the best bakery in your city, I would encourage you to do so. But if you would rather have that experience sooner without having to take years of learning how to do a thing, coaching and education is the best way to move forward on that. Being able to purchase someone else's time with their experience to support your needs, to provide you information, to act as a filter. There are many things that would be very incredibly valuable from coaching. And it may just be the one thing that you need to hear regularly that gets you over the hurdle, but it's going to be very hard for you to identify or to self-identify what that sticking point is or what that magic wand will be that actually gets you there. Well, then that's a shame for Nobu as they've lost one customer, but for the rest of us, I just hand them my credit card and tuck in. Any other coaching expertise or experiences of dealing with this objection of, I can find the same for much cheaper?
It's one question, and I don't lead with this question, that's brutally honest, is how's that working for you? That's not a good place to start a new relationship. It's a little blunt, but it usually gets to the, oh, well, I'm just not doing it yet. Like, okay, where do you need help doing that? And that kind of elicits the openness of, well, I could use help with this, or these are objections or whatever. And it's no longer an objection about me. It's the internal objections they have to doing the thing. That's the real issue. I'm not going to be your scapegoat as to why you can't do it when the objections are yours. So let's just talk about this. I do, since I'm not entirely nutrition, it's a mix of nutrition and health coaching and personal training. So people are seeing me in person. I offer 2 weeks free, which is crazy. You come in, we have a conversation ahead of time. You're going to be here twice a week. It's an opportunity to let's pick out, and I'm very upfront. If you don't like me, I can make, now that I know you and we know each other, I can make recommendations so that when you're done with the 2 weeks, you've not wasted 2 weeks. You're 2 weeks ahead on making a plan of your own. If it happens to include something else, I give my clients AI scripts for ChatGPT and stuff like that. If you want to go play with these, here's the ones that I've played with. Use them, fantastic. You're going to get generic results, but you're going to get results. Go with that. And if you like where you finally decide, yes, you're getting more in 45 minutes with me than you are 3 hours at the gym. Okay, now we've got something to work with. Let's simply keep working. And then we've already established that relationship. So I don't do just generally, if it's a short call or something, then I will give you something and let you work on that until you want to have that conversation.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Eric. And yeah, being able to provide alternatives within your own service to say, hey, this actually something that was repeated multiple times within that thread. And I would encourage coaches here to check out that thread because I think there's a lot of value in it. One of the solutions provided was just asking, what do they think is a worthwhile price point for the thing that for the problem that they're trying to solve? If they have a budget already in mind, and then within your own services, what would it look like if I tailored my service towards that budget? So assuming that it's a lower end offering than what I normally do. If I'm charging $500 a month and I'm meeting with them regularly once a week, and they would prefer actually spending somewhere closer to $150 or $200. Maybe I meet with them once per month and then we do check-ins in a different way. Would that still provide enough service for you to address the problem that you have? And if you think that that's worth it, then great. That's a new offering that I can have custom created for that person. Again, as a solo business operator, you get to decide what it looks like. You might say, yeah, that actually works for me. That helps me make my nut. I'm great. Or I don't enjoy working this way. It gives me a sense of unease or not enough control over the experience. So then I can suggest an alternative coach or another tool that might be more budget friendly to you. So definitely worth exploring that conversation a little bit more, Eric. And another thing to what you said in terms of kind of that blunt, how is it working for you? I know that's a PNism that we use quite often to try and explore certain things with clients. Sometimes it can come off as blunt. I think it is quite a compassionate statement when used in the right tone and delivered in a certain way to say, it doesn't have to stop right there. How is that working for you? You can ask someone, hey, based on the previous experience that you had, it sounds like you've tried some things before me. How have those worked out for you in the past? And how do we want to replicate the same experience, or are you looking to have a different experience this time? That, just as you mentioned, Eric, that is kind of a cornerstone to my kind of discovery call as well. I want to know, what have you worked on in the past? How did that work out for you? And then what did you like about it? What did you not like? Quite often when you ask that, how is that working for you? They'll remember some of the good times, typically near the end of that experience, where it was like, it was great. I did all the things. I got the result that I wanted. And then when we discuss a little bit further, it's like, okay, and then what happened? And then life happened. And then circumstances changed. And then I found it was unsustainable. And then I get to highlight all of the things that I would do differently based on your experience to avoid similar outcomes. So again, to say that this conversation, it can feel jarring to coaches. It can feel semi-insulting or to put you in a state of defense. But if you start to see it as an opportunity to, again, further explain the specific value that you offer and how you can connect your service to the problem that client is feeling or experiencing, it can be a great opportunity for you. It doesn't have to be something that is an affront to you, your business, and your sensibilities. Anna, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I agree. I think rather than looking at it as even a level of resistance, sometimes it can be a marketing opportunity. And if we tune into our own sense of scarcity or abundance and drive toward bringing the abundance, of course, and ask, maybe this isn't right for you, but maybe you know someone who it is right for. What would that person look like? And that can also get them thinking in the future, planting a seed. Maybe I am that person. I'm just not ready yet.
Yep. Again, seeing it as an opportunity to connect with another person, let them know what your services are. If nothing else, you've had that conversation. It's an opportunity for you to practice again. And if you are, again, solo entrepreneur in charge of your sales department and coaching department, this is valuable sales experience. And then creates a warm lead for you to follow up with in the future or to keep the door open for them. Cool. I'm just checking the chat box here.
I just wanted to add really quickly, one of the things I learned from Kim Tang, she's a really renowned yogi, and I was able to sit at the desk with her for about a year. And she would always say, I am going to take excellent care of you. And it was just, she would lean in and really speak to her intention. And then if it was one of those people who was hopping between free, weeks or whatever, she would just honor them. Wow, I'm just really excited to see what you do in your journey. We welcome you to. She was always very welcoming and reserved any judgment at all. And it helped a lot of people. People were drawn to that, and they didn't feel the pressure of, I need you here. If you're going to be benefiting, you got to be here, which was true, but she never led with that.
That is very powerful way of operating, moving through the world. So thank you for sharing Kim's lesson there. Zubair, I'm just seeing your comment here of when a brother-in-law asks, why can't I just buy an elliptical machine? And then saying, go ahead, but in the long term, it's a clothing rack is a better investment. Excellent. Cool. We have a few more minutes still, but I don't think we'll open up the second conversation for today. Maybe we can save that for another day. Any final thoughts or questions before we sign off for today?
I don't know if this is the place to do it, but I have a question about the women's or men's
Please.
group coaching, the annual.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I want to do that, and I haven't really been in the group that much. I'm recovered from the flu, thank goodness, the supersonic nursing home flu. But oh my God.
That sounds terrible. I'm glad to hear that you're recovered. If you're looking into our men's and women's group coaching programs, emails, I believe, should start going out probably in the next week or two. Are you already signed up on the email list?
Yes, and I was on the wait list. So I'm just kind of looking for how many times a week do we meet? What are the details in there? Is there?
Yep.
I didn't. Okay. Great.
Actually, in terms of meeting frequency, they're probably not like super well highlighted, but I can tell you as part of the group coaching team, we tend to meet once per week. There are some weeks where you may have an additional bonus meeting because there's like a special session or a cross cohort session where the January people and the July people will intersect on a specific habit. So expect a weekly meeting at the minimum, and then you may get a bonus meeting every now and then. Yeah, and
Okay.
the format tends to go for every 2-week habit. Week 1, the meeting will be specific to that habit. Week 2 is more open office hours where you can ask more general discussion.
Okay. And may I share what my intention is, what my goal is with this, and see if it's a match? So one of the reasons is I graduated from PN2 with Steve, and Steve has 17 years experience of coaching, and I have a lifetime experience of what I thought was coaching and no coaching experience. Like, no. I'm really bossy, but I'm not, I haven't been coaching. So my interest is in seeing how that plays out and really just getting the repetition of, so that I can get in my own reps of flexing it. But when in my attempts of coaching, with the PN way, I see myself going into default modes, and I'm interested in moving forward. And so I thought that this might be a great way to really integrate these skills. Am I right?
Yeah, so you're looking to kind of view this coaching experience through the lens of the coaching skills that you acquired in PN level 2.
Yes.
Does that feel accurate?
Yeah, and I mean, I'm interested in up-leveling too, but it's also a big business move, in my opinion, for me.
Vicky, did you unmute there?
Yeah, so I am currently in the women's coaching group with Jeremy and other coaches, but so sort of a similar reasoning, because I've only been coaching less than 2 years, and So seeing it through a different lens, and I'm going to quote a great coach here, that it's very much like level 2. You get into it what you put into it, right? So you can, you know, I mean, and then I'm sure you knew people in L2 that did the same thing, that kind of skated through it, like did the assignments, you know, move on, check the boxes. And I'm going to say that you and Steve were both like me. You wanted to learn as much as you could, so you put a lot into it. So the same thing will be true on the coaching. I mean, it's a good reminder about the habits, like the basic habits, like, oh yeah, forgot about that one, you know, and how valuable that is. And even if it's not personally something that you need to work on, I mean, I'm sure you have clients that do, or you will have clients that do. So it's a good, like, you know, practical thing. But I'd still say, like, when we talk about those calls, those weekly calls, I'm amazed how few people show for those calls. I'm really upset if I have to miss one, because I want to get my money's worth and all of that. So yeah, so again, what you put into is what you're going to get out of it. So yeah, welcome. I think you'll enjoy it.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I was just telling my dad the other week, when I was in college, I realized that cutting classes leads to cutting classes. So I would never miss. I mean, if I had to crawl, I'd be there in front and center. So thank you.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that I would leave you with viewing that experience would be when you're working through kind of like the day-to-day material, it was crafted by some PNOGs that were incredibly thoughtful coaches. Like I can hear specific voices in specific lessons. Some of those lessons have now been like redone, and there's new people who have added their collective voices to them as well. But I find it a very useful review to see them, just to kind of like ground myself in those voices again. I know, especially after finishing L2 and the original L2, when it was kind of mostly Krista's voice in there, it was useful to have those lessons to be like, oh, this is how someone who has these skills would explain these potentially complicated concepts, how they conduct these conversations. The lessons are very not super formal in tone. They're very kind of like speaking to an educated friend. Like your friend was a nutrition professional and you were asking them questions about protein or how to eat more veggies or things of that nature. And I especially found value in kind of the mindset lessons that always seemed to pop in at the right time when I needed them. So I hope you have a similar experience there and you get to utilize the new lenses that you've created with your L2 skill set to view these the lessons and how you would transmit similar information to your clients moving forward.
Thank you so much. Looking forward to it.
Cool. We'll call it here for today, folks. Thank you for coming out. Thank you for sharing your experiences. And then I think Kate has got you for the next one. So I'll see you later. And then that's all for today. Cheers, gang.